And, I guess because I'm not a quiet person in many ways, she let me be the voice. And so then after that, I was invited on things like the Phil Donahue Show. I was on a program called I Waited 30 Years Before Charging Dad with Rape. And my purpose for going on that show certainly wasn't about getting publicity. I mean, I can think of better ways to get publicity. And yeah, I've been involved in the media before, and I can think of much better ways to get publicity than to put myself through this. It was very exploitive. Phil Donahue, though, if I had any show I wanted to go on, that would have been the best one to go on. He was very sensitive. He was very kind, and we drove the point home. By then, I was working on legislation out here in California. I had founded a bill with the former state assemblywoman Paula Boland, that lifted the statutes and limitations criminally against child predators. That would be the bill, for those of you who are familiar with Philip Garrido, the one that abducted J.C. Dugard. That is the bill they used to be able to go all the way back and prosecute him for all 17, 18 years she was gone. He took JC 3 months after AB 638/290 had been signed and placed into law. This is also the bill that all the priests went to jail and they had them to let them out because they went over old statutes. It's the same bill. So then during this time frame, right after the prosecution, Gloria Allred was my attorney. I don't like her. She was my media attorney. And we parted company at a certain point of all of this. My agenda was if this was going to get this much news coverage, was to make sure that children's rights were protected, and to make sure that people that were running under 3 and 6 year statutes had the same opportunities to prosecute that I had. And her agenda was very much different than my agenda. And so we parted company. Then let's see, after the bill had passed, I went on a few more talk shows and decided and did some, I spoke with the media. With that said, the prosecution that I endured, there's about, out of all the text you'll find out on the internet, there's about 60, 70 words that refer to that. If you have people with their own agenda, they will focus on that 60, 70 words instead of what my cousin has been put through, I have been put through, my other cousin has been put through, and multiple victims that I don't even know who all of them are had been put through by my father. And I own that. I mean, it is what it is. I don't have a criminal history, and it is what it is. Let's see. After that, I went on to work with as an advocate with trauma survivors for approximately 10 years, maybe a little longer. I used to own a website. At that time, it was called Loretta Woodbury Online. That was my old name. I'm going to own that right here. My current name is Morgan Carlson, and that's the name I have chosen. That's the name I have gone after legally and gotten. And finally, some family members came to me from the Woodbury side of the family, and they stated, we need to move on. This is holding all of our lives back. Remember, he was our relative too. And I really didn't realize how selfish I had been being, and I had been so focused on survivors' rights, my rights, and making sure he didn't touch anyone else again, that I really don't think I took the time out to think about the impact it was having on the community I grew up in. It was a very small community, and the impact it was having on family members who I wasn't raised with, but he nevertheless was their parent too. So I pulled aside. It was hard. I had a large, massive forums in those days. We worked with a lot of trauma survivors, and I had a lot of volunteers that helped. So I shut that site down. And then I went on to move back to the South. I left the West Coast, went back to the South, and with the passage of time, I walked away from most of it. That doesn't mean, walked away never means, how you can never just totally wipe your feet and walk away from 7 years of abuse. It's not going to happen. But you can learn to have a degree of happiness in spite of what's happened. So then let's see. After a while, I had the last talk show I had passed up was Maury Povich before he got so crazy. I'm so glad I didn't go on that show. And I had done some smaller ones like Jane Wallace Live, various ones. And I'm telling you this because my goal was to make sure my father never touched another child. My goal was, as long as this was on the air, was to utilize it to get bills passed and laws passed so that when these children get old enough that they have recourse to go after them. When they're children, they're not going to go after them. So then eventually I had a total meltdown. Of course, you can't go through that much media coverage. It was being put in my face all the time. And I went and got the much needed help that I needed for a long time, and then I moved on with my life. After that, I was in the South in those years. I lived in Texas, and then I moved deeper south after that. So that's pretty well, on that portion of my story, I've decided that it's important that I put it out there. I know that it's been put out there more than once in a vindictive way, and that would be recently. The truth is, I'm not a big time criminal. I build websites. I have a little dog. I have a couple of birds. Let's see what else. I try to help people when I can. I try to do what I believe to be right in my heart. Anyway, I thank each of you for listening, and I hope you have a good evening, and maybe I'll do a second part on this. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's pretty much who I am, and you know that I'm in the middle of transitioning. I will try to do more videos on the walk with that. And thanks. I didn't realize I would have 16, 17 minutes worth of things to say. I hope they put it up and I don't have to trim it. You all have a good night.